Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session of Spokane Public Schools Keep Learning series for literacy. This lesson is intended for all second graders, but of course any interested student may join us. Welcome to our virtual classroom. My name is Peggy Eckloff, and I'm at Whitman Elementary in Spokane Schools, and I will be your teacher for this lesson. This is Week 6, Lesson 2, English Language Arts, from your Connect 5 Choice Board. For today's lesson, you will need the student graphic organizer and response sheet that were included in the file with the link to this video. Or, to make it even more simple, 2 sheets of paper and something to write with. Pause the video and I'll wait while you gather those materials. Do that now. So let's look together at the focus for today's lesson. My Name is Gabriela is a biography that tells us about a poet named Gabriela Mistral. In a biography, the author gives details to help the reader understand what the person was like. Today, we will use a chart to collect text evidence that show details about Gabriela. This evidence will help us understand why the author chose to write about her. Listen for words that help you understand Gabriela better. So let's go ahead and read our text now. My name is Gabriela. And I'm going to move this over here. My name is Gabriela Mistral. It is a name I chose myself because I like the sound of it. I love words and sounds and stories. When I was a little girl, I lived with my mother and Imalina, my sister, in a small house in the beautiful Elqui Valley in Chile. From my bedroom window, I could see the Andes Mountains. When I couldn't sleep, I would look up at the mountains and wonder what could be beyond them. Zebras with polka dots? Rainbow-colored flowers? Angels reading books? I think we're learning something now about Gabriela. Let's go to our graphic organizer, and I'll show you how we're going to record that. Let's do that now. Let's look one more time at our purpose for today. My Name is Gabriela is a true story that tells about the poet Gabriela Mistral. Pay attention to what Gabriela says and does. Use these clues and other text evidence to understand Gabriela and why the author wrote about her. You can write details in a chart like this. Now remember, you don't have to have this particular chart. You can make your own graphic organizer on your sheet of paper. So go ahead and make 3 columns by drawing 2 long vertical lines. I'll show you what I mean as I pull my draw tool. So when I say 2 long vertical lines, I'm just going to make 1 long line here and another long line here. I now have 3 columns to write in. This is a great way to organize your thinking. In the first column, I'm going to write the word character. C-H-A-R-A-C-T-E-R. Because we're taking notes about the character of Gabriela today. In the second column, I have words, thoughts, and actions. Those are things that the characters do. Words, W-O-R-D-S, thoughts, T-H-O-U-G-H-T-S, and the word actions, A-C-T-I-O-N-S. The last column we have is the word trait, T-R-A-I-T. And traits are something that tell us about the character or the person that we're reading about. So today we're going to be looking at the words and the actions and the thoughts of Gabriela and what they tell us about her as a person. So over here in this first column, I'm going to write that word Gabriela. And she's the only character we're going to be talking about today. But if you were reading a text that had more than one character, you could certainly put them on this kind of chart. So the words and thoughts and actions that we just read about was that she wondered what was beyond the mountains. When she couldn't sleep, she wondered what was beyond the mountains where she lived. And what does that tell us about her as a person? I think that tells us that she was curious about the world. So I'm going to write curious about the world. And then I'm also thinking about that part where she said she wondered if there were zebras with polka dots or rainbow-colored flowers. I think that she had a great imagination. So I'm going to say that she was very imaginative. You can record that in any way that works for you. So let me review. We're talking about the character of Gabriela today. We noticed that she wondered what was beyond the mountains and that she was curious about the world and very imaginative. That's what that showed us. Let's go back to our text and see what else we can find out about her. Let's continue. I loved words. I liked the sounds they made rolling off my tongue, and I liked the way they could express how I felt. When I saw a butterfly fluttering, I noticed the way the words fluttering butterfly sounded together, like a poem. I taught myself to read so that I could read other people's words and stories. I read stories about princes and princesses, about monsters, and about birds and flowers. Here's another good spot I think is going to be important for us to record. Let's go back to our graphic organizer now, and let's record what we now know about Gabriela. So what are you thinking about what we just learned about Gabriela? I'm thinking about how she said she liked the sound of words. So right here in this column that says words, thoughts, and actions, I'm going to record her thought about liking the sound of words. So I'm going to say likes the sound of words. I also want to record that she taught herself to read. So I'm going to write taught herself to read. You can add this to your graphic organizer, or you could talk about how she liked words because they expressed the way that she felt, or anything else that you noticed. So what does this tell us about the character of Gabriela? I think it tells us that she loved words. So I'm going to write that. Loved words. And I'm going to put an exclamation point to show some feeling. Let's go back to our text and see what else we can find out. Let's read. I also liked to write poems, sing songs, and tell stories using the words that I knew. I told stories about happy times and sad times, about mothers and babies and little children. I liked to play school with the children of my village. I pretended to be the teacher, and my friends, Sophia, Anna, and Pedro were my pupils. Pedro would always say that I was mean because I made him write his ABCs until he knew all the letters of the alphabet. But I told him that the alphabet is important. How else would he create words and tell his stories without it? In our pretend class, we sang songs like the baby chicks are saying, peep, peep, peep. It means they're cold and hungry. It means they need some sleep. That was Sophia's favorite song. During recess, we had fun running and chasing and laughing and playing. And here she is all grown up. When I grew up, I became a real teacher and writer. I taught the children of Chile, and many of my students became teachers themselves. I still write poems. I still wrote poems, happy poems, sad poems, stories of mothers and children. But I also wrote poems about animals, about parrots and peacocks, and even rats. Let's go to our graphic organizer because we just learned some more about Gabriela. So what are you thinking you're going to record here? I'm thinking that I'm going to record that she played school. She played school and she became a teacher. So what does that tell me about Gabriela? I think it tells me that she thinks learning and teaching are really important. Did you notice how she said that she taught her students and then a lot of those students became teachers and they taught more students? It's kind of like a cycle, isn't it? So I'm going to report that she thinks, and let me move this so you can see it. She thinks teaching and learning are important. Do you remember that part where she insisted that Pedro learn his ABCs? Go ahead and record your thoughts now. Let's go back to our text. Let's read. I also traveled to faraway places. I never saw zebras with polka dots or rainbow-colored flowers, but I met wonderful children and their teachers. I traveled to Europe, to France, to Italy. I traveled to Mexico. I traveled to the United States. Everywhere I went, I wrote and taught and met teachers. I saw how all over the world people wanted their children to learn. My stories traveled the world with me. People liked to read my happy stories, my sad stories, my stories of women and children, my stories of parrots and peacocks, of old lions and of the fisher folk who slept in the sand and dreamt of the sea. I see something important on this page. I see at the top where it says Nobel Prize. And because people from all over the world love my story so, I was given a very special prize, the Nobel Prize for Literature. When I accepted the grand award, I thought of the beautiful mountains outside of my window in Chile, of my mother and sister, of the children of my village, and of all the stories that still need to be told. I think this is important. Let's go to our graphic organizer and record now. So wow, let's record now on this part of our graphic organizer what we just learned. We learned that she received the Nobel Prize for Literature. That's a really big deal. And what does that tell us about Gabriela? It tells us that people all over the world, not just in Chile, but all over the world, really enjoyed her writing. And it even says in the story that she created, or excuse me, it says in the text that she created stories that people all over the world loved. You can decide how you want to say that on your graphic organizer. So wow, we learned a lot about Gabriela today. We have a lot of information and text evidence on our graphic organizer. We've done a lot of good thinking. So now let's go to our writing prompt for today. Let's do that now. So let's look at our writing prompts for today. What was the main purpose of My Name is Gabriela? Why was she important? Remember, you've already done the hard work. You've got lots of great thinking on your graphic organizer that you just filled out. I want to share with you what I'm thinking, and remember, your response does not have to look exactly like mine. You're your own person and have your own thinking. So that's what you want to show in your writing. Here's what I said. Gabriela was a poet who was very imaginative and curious about the world. She wondered what was beyond the mountains of her home in Chile. Remember when we recorded that on our graphic organizer? I'm using those ideas now. Let's see what other ideas I used. I know she loved words because in the text it said she liked the sound of words, like fluttering butterfly. She played school and became a teacher because she thought learning was important. She received the Nobel Prize for Literature because people all over the world loved her stories. Did you notice how I just included the ideas that we put on our graphic organizer together? I just took those ideas and made them into sentences, put them together in a way that made sense. Now I want to look at my conclusion because remember, my concluding statement is the thing I most want to leave my reader with. Here's what I said. I think the author chose to tell us about Gabriela because she encouraged others to create their own stories. What do you think? You got some ideas about what you're going to say about Gabriela? Go ahead and take that second sheet of paper and do that now. And when you're finished with that, go ahead and create your own story. I know you've got one inside you. Thank you, second graders, for joining me today. Keep working hard, and I'll see you next time.